So you want to be a treasure hunter. What do you do? What do you do next? We got the fancy dancy machine. What are we gonna do? So I figured we'd do a little bit of talk about the MindLab Equinox 800. It's the one I've had the most exposure with, so we'll run with this one first. I'm still working on my CTX and trying to learn some of it because I don't think you ever master that one. So I figured this would be a perfect time to do a unbox of an Equinox 800 setup and the way a DETEXPERT does it. No different than you open the box and you set it up. But we can run through some settings and I'll tell you what and how I use multi-IQ. What I will not do is go into any of the other MindLab metal detectors that have multi-IQ that I have not used because I don't know how it behaves there. Now it should behave perfectly all the way across the board. I don't know, I haven't had my hands on those machines. Hey MindLab, send us the machines to test. These are actually two replacements from a couple of used ones I got replaced during, a couple of mine that I got replaced during COVID. Ended up, they were running low on the pods during COVID because of manufacturing and wasn't able to get me two new ones. So they gave me two used ones and the battery life finally just was nothing on those left. So I got two brand new ones here. So that one doesn't matter. Actually, they all really do matter. This one's really important because if you charge your Equinox wrong, you will mess up your battery. Just read the battery one, go over it a little bit. They behave a little differently than some batteries. Yeah, sorry, Duke. The other one gives you all of your accessories that you have in this box. Now, it's going to be your ins and outs of how to actually put together the Equinox. All right, so we've seen that. We go into right here. Now we have your instruction manuals and your assembly instructions and stuff like that. But since this is a video, you guys already have this, you can read it. Always hold on to all your paperwork in your boxes because if you do have to send something back or something's not behaving like it used to or you need anything looked at, MindLab has a full diagnostics crew. You send them the detector back. Normally your dealer will forward the cost on that. Sometimes they won't. Sometimes MindLab can hook you up on the cost depending on stuff. It's all interchangeable. They try to do as much as they can. They have a really great department down there. And they'll get you something back within 10 days, like guaranteed. Like I've sent the other two detectors in and had a notification that these two were coming in before I even had the lady ship the other one. It was like in my hand immediately. I was like, oh, what's the address? Oh, it's right here. Oh, they already shipped it. Sick. Anyway, moving on. Another pamphlet. This is going to be your quick start guide, your flip on, your flip don'ts, your different modes, how they behave. Now, how they behave and how you use this Equinox is going to vary to where you're at. I hunt a lot of low, salty areas, so I hunt the low country. I'm in Charleston, South Carolina. Everywhere I try to hit is as low as I can get. I take a drone and fly down the creeks and look for brick piles at low tide. I mean, we get way off page and try to locate places that aren't on maps anymore. So I set mine up a little bit differently as far as programs. Another quick start guide, got two in that one, not sure why. We have your Equinox 800 stock 11-inch coil. This coil is the best coil for this machine. I cannot stress this enough. Do I have all the coils? Yes. Do I use them all differently? 100%. Do I set up the Equinox differently per each coil for my conditions? 100%. If you're going out and you're swinging and you want to nail it every single time, I highly recommend learning this coil, pinpointing with it, everything else. Learn this coil before you buy a different one. The other coils have different purposes, okay? The 15-inch coil I use on scouting to cover ground, but I got to use it on scouting in places where I know there's not going to be a lot of signals, because then pinpointing does get more difficult with a big coil. Okay, now we'll go into pinpointing on the 15-inch coil at another demo, but I can't stress this enough, guys. Learn this coil. This is the best coil. I've found more crap with this coil than any of the other ones, and the other one's probably the 15-inch just because of ground coverage. Now at the 15-inch, I keep it at my feet, and I swing real slow with it, and you're able to run deeper because you can run a lower reaction speed. So learn this coil. The only other thing I can point out about these coils, and this is not by oh, it's funny when I read this online, guys. All right, so just as you have maintenance on your cars, your machines, anything high tech is gonna have a lot of maintenance, okay? You gotta take care of these machines. You see these little rubber pieces? These grommets right here that fit into this shaft that I'll pull out here in a minute are some of the most important things that you need to pay attention to. You see how thick they are now? You get them a little thinner than that and your coil starts to droop. So what do? You tighten this up, right? So then when you tighten this up, it puts stress right here, right? So what you're doing is putting your coils in a vise. You don't have to have a coil strengthener. You can if you want. You can print your own. You can buy them on eBay. That's your choice. I don't ever use them because I've never broken a coil, and I probably put more hours in than the average Joe. And I also have a bag of these that I replace. You can get them through your dealers, okay? It's like 20 bucks for like a year's worth, okay? We're not talking about a lot of money. We're not talking about a lot of maintenance. This little grommet, replace them, please. Tired of seeing the weak Equinox coils bull crap online, okay? These guys, if you maintenance it, it's perfect, okay? I've never had one of these coils break. And I've fallen down the dang hills on them. I've broken shafts, but that's it. It's just no whole other discussion. All right, so we got the coil out of the way. Don't turn this on before you put a coil on it. It'll throw an error code. I always leave this little guy on there as much as I can. What else we got? All right, there's my grips for my arm. We've got one. No, they didn't do this one on my first time I bought one. Look at that. Good on you, Mind Lab. One, but two Equinox chargers. That comes in real handy, which means I got 4 all day probably. All right, you got your Wi-Fi. Keep in mind, guys, this is not Bluetooth. It's a little bit slower than the Bluetooth for some reason. I've had to slow down when I use this and swing a little slower. It might be the EMI or something else or whatever it is, I'm not sure, but this behaves a tiny bit differently than the Bluetooth headphones to me. It could be the crappy gas station headphones that I'm plugging into this. So that'll be a test and discussion on another note. All right, here we go. These are, everything's just sealed up. I ain't gonna be able to get into it. This is gonna be an hour-long video. This is gonna be your headphone pack. Mind Lab headphones. All right. So we all know the talking points of the Equinoxes and their weak points and their strong points. Their headphone connectivities can be a little bit difficult. The low latency aspect of the headphones so that they read up with the Equinox makes it a little harder to find aftermarket headphones. There's a few different people that have them on Amazon. If anybody knows any of those links, feel free to put them below. Happy to test these. Let's see what they look almost exactly the same as the other ones. Maybe a little sturdier. They feel a little heavier. Not heavier like gonna bother me heavier, but heavier like better made heavier. So your functions on your headphones, center button, hold down. You'll hear boo-doo-doo. Keep it holding down and it'll go boo-doo. That's when you're in pairing mode. I normally wait to turn all that on when I have the Equinox set up, so we'll go ahead and do that. All right. So as we're setting this up, I'm gonna go over, and this thing's pretty much, I mean, you ain't got to deal with any Allen keys. I mean, you've got a couple snaps and we're ready to go. All right. Remember that most important thing I told you guys about? Your little slots now. All right. Make sure you use MindLab approved units on these, because they won't warranty them if you mess it up by breaking your own coil with a not a MindLab thing, because they don't know who made the other stuff, and I agree with that aspect of it. Does it suck sometimes when you're trying to fancy out your Equinox? Yeah, but come on, guys. There's ways around it, and I'm working on a shaft as we speak. All right, so we're gonna put this back in here. See how tight this is? That is why the Equinox swings so smooth. If it doesn't do this, I don't have anything in it that bolts out of it. That is what those grommets are for. If your coil is not doing this, or it's close to not doing that, you need to go ahead and start replacing those things so that you can get your nice fit back on that swing. That's what makes this such a smooth machine. That's snug now. This is forcing to be able to push down. All right, that's what we want. Brand new carbon fiber lower. If you turn your thing just to the side a little bit and then come back up, you'll be able to find the slot real easily. That's about the only little pain about this thing, is refinding your holes. They don't quite collapse long enough, but like I said, I'm working on one. This just clips right in. All right, now what I like to do is, as you're taking this out, because we all know the noise when you're running high sensitivity. I mean, this is standing up on its own. That's the way it should behave. When we want to always take and run your cord, you run your cord through the front like that, so that when you lay it down, it doesn't go off. And then I'll do a gentle wrap like this. But everybody knows the little bits of boggle and bang, 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 bang when you're going through brush and stuff with the Equinox. But one quick, easy way to do this is, when you still have it loose, just give this guy a spin at the top one. All right, while your coil's like this. And then you know how tight you have it. All right, so that's as tight as I can have it on there. Now, another thing I like to do when I'm going in super brushy stuff is, we have Duke split his tail one time and looked like a murder scene all over the house. So if you wrap that wrapping tape stuff up around this, but it gets covered in sand, it'll keep a little bit on that noise gone. All right, so now we're going to turn her on. All right. Don't mind the stuff all over the floor. I have Great Danes. All right, we're inside. Lots of EMI. Let's see what this will do. This is your noise cancel. I'm not even going to lift the coil. Let's see what it does. All right. So what we're going to do is walk outside. Metal everywhere. Okay. I'm going to be rebarring that. So, multi-IQ. This one's updated. So we got our 4, 5, 10, 15, 20, 40, which I find useful, and multi. Multi is what I use the most. Now, why is multi what I use the most? Because I hunt in salty areas. See if I can get out of the sun.
There we go. See if you can see that now. Anyway, so what I like to do is I will run the first group of settings of just about each one besides gold. I play with gold sometimes in the relic fields, but I don't know. So mostly what I hunt in is park, and I'll almost do a stock setup. So I'll sometimes run a tracking ground balance in places just to see if I can get anything else out. Most of the time I don't run any at all. I've been playing around with that more now at spots I've been to before and having a lot of success whenever I go back. Alright, my volume I keep at a 23. Alright, I'm going to go down to here. This is the most important part of the Equinox to me. My volume for iron. Ooh, I can turn that all the way off if I want, but I don't want to because I want to hear bump bump when I'm scouting. Alright, here's your next group of settings. Now, I like my lead stuff and I like my small buttons and stuff like that, so we'll keep that at a 20. We'll keep my coins and my tags and my buckles and all that stuff at a 25. This is a good one right here I like to use. You ever get that weird goose sounding sound and it ends up being like a flat hoe at the bottom of a pit or a really big piece of iron to people that don't have a lot of like iron tools around. I turned this down to like a 19 and that goes away. I swear to you, it thinks like a CTX, and you swing over that signal again, it don't make that weird noise and make you want to dig it, alright? So we're gonna go to our we're gonna go to our threshold. And the threshold, I really don't use that much. Sometimes I'll play with it. Matt uses threshold a bunch because he leaves his iron bias on. I normally hunt wide open, and then I'll turn the sound down of what I don't want to hear. So next, 5 tones. I'll go into 2 tones if I've pounded a spot, just to get a different reaction. But normally I hunt 5 tones no matter what, so that I can control the volume on what I'm hunting. Alright, now this guy, I don't discriminate anything. I don't want to notch anything out. I don't want to cancel any of that stuff. Alright, so 5 is a really slow swing, okay? 5 is 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, okay? If you go down to a 4, 1, this is how quickly this is going to register. Alright, so when you go down to 1s and stuff like that, you really have to slow your swing down if you're relic hunting like in South Carolina or anything like that. I normally run a 6. On the big coil, I'll run a 5. I'll run a 6 or 7 with this guy, and it picks up a whole lot better, alright? Of course, there's no target under it, so you can't tell. So I run my my noise cancel, and then basically I go to work after that. So okay, I'm running full spectrum, no bars cut out. All right, just as easy as it comes. There's all kinds of stuff in my yard. Now, if I know the previous owners of the house, that's a beer tab. But you can also find stuff like mini Great Danes. Alright guys, and that's me actually setting up my Equinox 800, and she's ready to roll. That's run your stock settings, learn your stock settings, figure out what works. I literally will walk over a signal and I will change it through Park 1, Park 2, Field 1, Field 2, Beach 1, Beach 2, and listen to it stock, like the original settings that's got into it. Because once you learn those settings, then you can learn how to elevate or change the sounds on it and stuff. Before you start messing with anything, I would suggest mess with your volumes. And that's what you can really learn from and pick a site clean, because you can walk through there and that dunk aluminum trash that you're getting, just turn that down a little bit. Don't turn it off, because you can still hear it. It might be gold, who knows. You'll still dig it anyway. Well, you should, because I don't leave signals in the ground anymore. Ask Matt on that one. he dug a tag in a hole that I left because the signal disappeared. It went too deep, and my Garrett Carrot pinpointer missed it. That's why I don't use those anymore. Anyway, we got a setup on the Equinox, a basic rundown in the settings. In the next video, I'll do a little bit better on the settings. I'll do a little bit more advanced, but we'll do something in the field. I'm in the middle of waiting for deer season in South Carolina to stop. So there's a lot of hunting going on, all kinds of different seasons. It's open-end season. And there's only certain areas we can get into and hunt, and parks, certain parks, most of all parks in Charleston County are not allowed to hunt in. So it's not like every other state or every other part of the state. All our parks are mostly historic, so you can't just go coin shooting in the park, which is why I don't normally do that. I could go to the beach, but I go to the beach, I'm surfing, man. I ain't swinging a metal detector, I'm surfing. So yeah, if anybody has any questions about anything I've gone over right now, we touched a little bit on the multi-IQ. Why don't you guys tell me what y'all like the best about multi-IQ? What I like about it the best is I use about 20 and 40 kilohertz, okay? And I use that on places with a lot of EMI. So I'll go into my Isle of Oaks place, which you saw with Debbie in my last episode. That place has a ton of EMI because it's got cords running underneath the ground. So what I'll do is I'll switch it over into 40 kilohertz and everything sounds almost exactly the same. 20 kilohertz is very similar. I'm still learning the differences of all that, so I'm not going to touch on all of it as much, but I mainly use the multi. I trust the multi. I really like the multi-IQ because it's just running all of them at once. I mean, it does get a little chattery, but you can tweak your volumes and stuff like that to make it less chattery in different places, you know, because hunting downtown or hunting in a subdivision or what have you, if you're in the middle of nowhere, crank it all the way up, baby, let it run. But you know, it's pretty simple, guys. Go on, pick which mode you want to be in, but I don't let the atmosphere of where I'm at pick the mode. Like, let's say I'm at the beach, I don't just necessarily pick the beach. I run park on the beach. It just depends on what's the first sound I get. I'll run the first 3 signals, and which one sounds better, making me stutter. But it's all testing. Test the thing, test it, play with it, okay? Take it out, get it dirty. It's not going to die. Get it wet. Go in your low areas. Hit your creeks, man, because nobody's ever done these before, and that's why I'm having a lot of success with Equinox. This video is long enough, and I'm rambling, but thank you, Mind Lab, for my warranty replacements. I really appreciate that.